Welcome to the LaunchFamily Podcast, where we make sense of modern parenting one real conversation at a time. I'm your host, Jessica Shelley, mom of six, former public school teacher, and your trusted friend helping you cut through the noise of today's parenting overload. If you've ever felt overwhelmed trying to advocate for your child, unsure where to start when challenges arise, or wondered whether you're doing enough, you're not alone. Here we talk with experts, parents, and educators who are passionate about child development, education, and real world parenting so you can parent with confidence and clarity. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Coach Okenya. Coach Okenya is a certified parent advocate, coach, and mindset coach, bringing a powerful perspective shaped by years of experience working in foster care systems and walking her own journey navigating early intervention for her son. Through her work, she's empowered parents to find their voice, advocate fiercely, and trust their instincts when it comes to their child's needs. Kenya, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, well, I want to give our listeners a little bit of context for who you are and what you do. So can you share a little bit about your professional background and how your experience in foster care shaped your journey into parent advocacy?
Okay, so I have a background. I'm a certified coach. So I'm a parent advocate coach and a mindset coach. And I have over 15 years of foster care experience. I didn't want to show my age, but 15 years of foster care experience. And being a mom, working in foster care is what pushed me to becoming a coach because with my experience, I got the front row seats to see that there are so many services that other families don't really know about. I was able to know exactly what to do, but when I've had my child, that's when the real experience started coming in, the actual process of having to go through each evaluation, reading up and using Google as my friend.
Yeah. And you mentioned like this kind of all came to fruition as you had your first child and noticed that he wasn't quite hitting the milestone. So, how did your personal experience inspire that work to help other parents? What were some of those resources or tools that you came across in your journey?
So my son, when he was younger, I realized that he wasn't meeting some of his milestones after he had turned one. And then going to a lot of the evaluations and going to the therapist office and all the where all the services are provided, speaking to other moms, I realized that I had a slight advantage only because I knew what type of service was needed and I had the support. A lot of these moms did not have the support. So I would always be there to give them the information to say, here, I know this. Here, you should contact this person. Call me if you need anything. I'm here to support you. When I realized that that's the story I kept running into, I said, I have to use this, my experience, my skill set, and apply it and help other moms. If I'm able to do it, I want to do it because my passion is always to help. That's something that's been in me. It can be a curse and a blessing, but I truly love it because I give moms the confidence and their voice to advocate for their child.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, the confidence and the voice, right? Like, you have to feel confident in what you're advocating for with your voice,
Right.
that it's the right decision too. And so I know one of the things that you had talked about is like when to trust your gut, especially when everyone else might be saying just wait. So I think that kind of plays into this kind of confidence idea. How do you feel confident in, your own abilities as a parent to advocate for your child in those moments where you may be told, oh, it's okay, just let's wait and see how it goes.
Right. So we always we'll as parents we'll say we'll wait and see. And then you have even people telling you, your family, your friends, professionals telling you, wait and see, wait and see. But I'm here to tell you, your gut is your superpower. If you feel that you should not wait and see, don't. As a
Mm,
mom, you know your child better than anyone. Professionals are helpful, of course, but your intuition, that's what's going to guide you. That's your strongest guide. So don't let the just wait hold you back from getting the help that your child is going to need. Remember, like, you're going to be your child's best advocate. You're the only one that's going to know best.
yeah. And sometimes like their only advocate, right? Like if they're in the traditional school system or something, they may rely on others to, like, nobody's going to step in to help advocate for what your child needs more than what a parent will, because you're the one who knows your child best. But I also want to bring in this piece where you had mentioned, you resulted to Google and you're, trying to figure out what to do next. And so how did you balance like the expert opinions and the information that you were getting with your own instincts when making those decisions for your son?
See, that's a little hard. So it's like a balance scale. So
Mm.
I've always listened to the experts, but I also knew that as my son's mother, I had more valuable insights in what he needed. So I balanced their advice with my understanding of my son, combined them both. And that's how I've always made all my informed decisions. I couldn't just rely on just my gut, of course. I had to see what they were saying, what my support was saying. And with all the information there, I knew what steps I could take.
I love that kind of balanced approach too, because it is true to your point of like, well, sometimes you just don't know what else is out there, right? And I have 6 children, and my second son, he had some medical challenges when he was about 4 months old, and we actually ended up in the local children's hospital for like 3 weeks. And I remember just feeling so overwhelmed of like, all I'm hearing is medical jargon. I'm a teacher. I don't understand any of this. And so then I go to Dr. Google, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what does this word mean? Or like, this is in the daily report. And I love that you mentioned the balance, because there is a place for like learning that information about what they're thinking it could be, or the, procedures, protocols, all of the things that need to happen. But then at the same time, it's like you're the one who's with your child and witnessing what's happening,
Right.
to then be able to like ask additional questions or, seek clarification on some of the protocols or like therapies that they're requesting for your child too.
Exactly. This is why I usually ask them to repeat what you said. Can you
Mm,
clarify that? How does that help my son? What needs are we addressing? I'm sitting here and I always have a notepad any and everywhere I go, because I have to make sure I have to jot these things down. So when you're finished talking, I can say, okay, hold on. I have a question here. Because when you're in the moment, you might not want to ask questions because you're trying to digest everything that they're trying to tell you. But this is not the time to not ask the question. This is the best time because we're in the now. So I agree with you. You have to balance out everything else that you're hearing, and then figure out, like, you know what? I think I know what's best. I'm the one that's seeing the behavior. I'm the one that's up at night, or, whatever the situation is.
yeah. 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 And I think, one of the things that you had mentioned is kind of your methodology for how you support parents. Like, you're a giver, you want to help everyone too. And so you've actually created a framework called Voice to help parents champion their children. So can you walk us through what Voice stands for and what that looks like in practice?
Okay, so yes, I did create a framework. So voice it stands for validate feelings, observe and own your child's behavior, identify resources, construct a plan, and educate others about your child. So through the framework, in each session, we'll just tackle one, because you have to master one before we get to the others. So when I talk about the first one, validate your feelings, let's get all these emotions out. Let's go. How are you feeling? No, it's not your fault. No, you didn't do anything wrong. This is just what was happening now. And let's see how we can get over this one step. Because when you start being scared, when you're mad, when you're angry, you're not able to voice your thoughts clearly. So this is why you have to validate those feelings. Okay, I got this all out the way, and let's go to the next one, right? And that will be observing your own child's behavior. Because sometimes when doctors ask or professionals ask, so what's wrong? Right? We're so vague in explaining these things. So we're like, they're not listening, or they're throwing 10 for 10, not realizing that when you observe your child's behavior, you're literally writing down everything you see, not what you feel. Because he's making me upset because he's doing this, or he's making me sad. This is not what this is about. It's about, what do you see? Do you see your child not listening because I said it 3 times? Or did I trigger my child to do something? So I need you to observe it, write it down. Because when they're asking, you can say 4 days out of the week, 5 times out of the day, I can say this is what I see.
Yeah.
This is how he or she reacts when I say, and then that can help the professionals, because they say, okay, this is what you're seeing. Now I could go in my book to tell you exactly what this is. Um, the next one will be identifying resources. So now that you know you got your feelings under control, you're observing everything that you have to see. Okay, so what's the next step? Is it evaluation? Who do I evaluate? This is where, like you said, Dr. Google, this is when you step in. Go into Google, find out what's happening, where can I get the support, or what is my next step. Then after you identify all your resources and your support, you construct the plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to send this email. I'm going to call this person. And that makes it perfect. That's the plan. Now, when everything comes in together, meaning your feelings, your plan, the resources, this means everything's already evaluating, right? And you're actually going through the process to helping your child. Now you have to educate others how they interact with your child. So I'll tell people, no, my son did not understand. Can you repeat yourself? With him, you have to say it twice. I have to tell you how to interact with my child. Because if you're not, then you're going to assume, right? Make all these assumptions that he's not listening or he's doing something else. And it's not true. I got to teach you how you should be around my child. And this is with my family, this is my friends, and even the teachers. Because I need everyone on the same accord. Teachers, what are you seeing? Oh, this is what you say. Okay, at home, this is what, okay, so what are we going to do now? I'm going to tell you this works at home. Can you try this in the classroom? And that's how you educate others. And that's how the voice comes up, because after you can do this, you're able to voice, right? You're able to find your voice. You're able to say, no, this is not what they like. No, this, I do not feel comfortable about this. No, it's not right. Right. So creating the voice framework is just, it went so well with what I look for from moms, right? To finding their voice.
Oh my gosh, how powerful too. Like what an incredible tool to like have in your tool belt of being able to kind of visually think through like, okay, I need to like regulate myself first and validate the feelings that I'm having in order to even move to the next step, right? Like that is
Right.
so foundational. I know that that sort of that strategy has been echoed in a multitude of our other episodes as well. And so I love that that is also coming through here. And with the observing behavior, like even the frequency or the time of day, like even having that
Right.
specificity of the notes is so helpful, because it's like, oh, is this only happening in the morning routine? Is
Right.
this only happening at bedtime? Like you can speak to the specific times of the day or the routines that are being impacted with such clarity too,
Yes.
right? To be able to understand what else could be triggering this.
Exactly, exactly. Sometimes, I mean, right, we're moms, so we're doing 1,000 things a day. You're not going to remember each detail on things, right? We walk around with our phone all the time, right? Put a voice note. This is what I'm seeing at this current moment. So you can remember, so you have something to go back to, right? The doctor, by the time we see the doctor, it's 3 months later.
Right.
We're already
Especially
flustered,
for
we're
like
upset, we're tired. There's so much happening, so much emotion is happening. So as long as you write these things down, you could be like, you know what? I have my notes here. Let me tell you exactly what I'm seeing, right? And at least you'll be prepared.
Yeah, one thing that we did too when my son was younger is we would just like do a quick like 30-second video on our phone, and then we had a folder on our phones and we would
Perfect.
just review it before going up to the doctor. And be like, okay, if he asks what this actually looks like, I'm gonna pull out the video and be like, okay, do you see he's screaming when there is cheese on his plate?
Right, right,
Any of those sorts of things where it's like, okay, we can notice any of the behaviors, but in those moments it is so hard to be like, hold on, I need to step back, because especially if your child is, um, escalated, right?
right.
It's hard to not want to intervene and help resolve that issue, and instead let them kind of experience whatever is happening in order to understand like the documentation purposes of that. So I love that as well. And, educate your,
Others.
yeah, others. I'm thinking specifically about family, and how that can be really, really challenging. So any tips or strategies for parents that are maybe navigating that with like grandparents that maybe help support their kids, or aunts and uncles, or in social settings at the barbecue? Like, how do we do this gracefully without kind of stepping on toes, but also protecting our kid?
Stand your ground, because they will make you feel like they know better. Yes, you laid the foundation. Thank you. But this is my child that I bore this child. I have been dealing with this. So yes, Thank you. You raised me well. However, these behaviors are different. And the way that parenting for my child works, this what helps. Let's play it by my role and see how this works. And then we can discuss anything after, right? This is
Right.
about creating a safe space for your child. This is not about anything else. People and grown-ups are going to be in their feelings. Okay, it's a feeling, build a bridge and let's walk over it together. And that's fine. Because the people pleaser in me that I used to be, was like, oh, okay, no, I cannot do that because now I'm putting my son in a situation that he probably is emotionally scared, don't want to speak anymore, don't want to talk. And I cannot do that, right?
Mhm.
Just for other people, know what everybody else needs to do is check your emotions when you're around my child so we all can feel comfortable because we should be allowed to do that.
Mhm.
That's like when we have our kids and they're young, right? Oh, give them a bottle at this time, right? We give them directions of what to do. They had a
Yep.
bottle before we came, so you don't have to feed it through. The same way we do that is the same way with anything else. No, when he's doing this, count to three, whatever the plan, right? Whatever the plan, because constructing a plan can look like anything. Even when how I have to tell you how to watch my child. This is what you should do. Then this is how, and this works, right?
Mhm.
And then it can be scary, but you have to stand 10 toes down, use the voice, and remember, you're protecting your child. You're the voice for you and your child.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that that is so powerful too, because I think of, dynamics within families and how things can get really complicated really quickly. But I think you put it really, eloquently there too, where you said, you're basically like creating this boundary too with others so that it doesn't fall onto your child to have to try to navigate that alone. Like if you can be their voice and say, hey, this is the way that we're going to do this, it takes that off of the child and instead allows you to be that person, that mediary of like, oh, if this is not going to be a safe thing or you can honor, what I'm asking, then I also have to set that boundary and be like, I'm sorry, you no longer have access to my child. So,
Exactly. We are in a day and age where we're not doing this to our children. I'm not going to sacrifice how they feel to make you feel better as an adult.
mhm.
No way. I'm so sorry about that. But if you cannot abide by that, then like you said, I'm sorry, then we cannot continue this. We can hang out on our own, but my child, no.
Yeah.
Creating that space is especially important. And I think I get that even more because of my 15 years in foster care and seeing how adults can trigger and cause more trauma. And I'm not here for that. I'm here to protect the children, make sure they're in a safe space where they're able to respond than to react.
And that is really hard when it comes to like grandparent dynamics. I think like that is what I'm navigating of like, okay, I have to set boundaries with my parents because I know how I was raised and like the perspectives that they have on how my children behave and just maybe a lack of understanding too of what we've gone through, like personally with like therapies and things.
Hmm.
But I love that point of like educating them, giving them that opportunity to also show up. Like you'd be doing them a disservice if you don't give them those tools,
Yes,
but also, like, if you have to set that boundary and be like, hey, I can have this conversation with you, but I'm not going to talk about it in front of my child. Like, this is something that we can work out on the side before we kind of reintroduce this relationship to them.
exactly.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I was ready for this conversation today.
No, well, if it can help you, it's because it's a lot. And we're not trying to be mean to our parents. That is not what we're trying to do, right?
Hmm.
But I'm also a parent and I have to make sure that my child is in a safe space. Now, you could do all the grandparents things, that's fine. But when it comes to certain parenting skills, you could check me. You can come to me and I'll tell you exactly what needs to be done.
Right. Right. And when parents are starting to kind of go through this advocacy journey and they're coming into their voice and all of those things, what are some of those common mistakes that you see happening most often when they're first trying to like advocate for services or kind of set that foundation for educating others about their child?
Okay, one common mistake is not asking questions or not fully understanding the services that's being offered. That's the most common mistakes. Everybody, not everybody, but people be like, okay, not a problem. Data professionals, so they should know better. They are the professional, but they see many children. But you are the expert of your child. You see the behaviors, you know what is happening. So I would say you have to be well informed. So ask for clarification and don't hesitate to push what your child needs. These are the behaviors. What services can help with that?
The connection piece.
It's the connection. These are the behaviors and what service can have. And I don't understand what you're saying. Can you clarify that, please? And, some parents probably like, oh, I don't want to ask too much questions. I don't want to bother the doctor. The doctor's there to answer questions. And you should be well informed before you leave, right?
Mm.
So even though there's Dr. Google, right? Some stuff can be inaccurate, right? So I have to ask a live person. So, doctor, no, I don't understand. Can you explain? Do you have a pamphlet that has more information so I can go back and read? Is there a way for me to contact you after this? Because you don't want to feel alone after this, right? Because so much stuff is happening. You might not ask the questions, but like I said, the number one is not asking enough and just accepting all that's what they're putting on the table.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that's such a big one too. Like it sounds so simple, but in practice, I feel like it is hard,
Yes.
especially if you're like, if that's been kind of how you've been before of like, okay, I have to put myself out of this comfort zone to ask a question. And then I may get a response and I'm like, hey, wait, I still don't understand. Can you please clarify again? Like, that could be a little intimidating. But again, like I love that this point of, you're breaking down those barriers for your child.
Yes.
I think all of this is making it easier for them to exist, get the supports that they need, all of the things. Like you are their voice in this process. So I think that that's what makes it all worth it too at the end of the day of like, okay, I can put myself out there knowing that it's for my child. Like I may not advocate for myself. That's a whole other conversation.
That's where my mindset coach helps you with that part. But this is what the coaching is. I'm not going to, we sit down and coach in our sessions. It's about me helping you. So if you feel that you're not ready, okay, let's role play and let's do this because I'm going to make sure you're confident, right? When you're coaching with me, you can email me all day. I will answer your questions after the sessions because sometimes you don't have enough. That is fine. I'm there to I'm your tour guide. On the
Mm.
left, this is what we're doing. On the right, this is what we're doing. Did you find your voice yet? Is it there? Oh no? Okay, let's go back. Because I'm not finished until I know you're ready. And it's not the easiest thing. And I can say, not that I didn't ask a lot of questions, but I've learned to stand my ground. I learned that you can't push me over. You can push me over, but you can't push the mom over. Right? You can push me over as Okenya, as Coach Okenya, no. But as mom, there's no way. I'm sorry. That is a no. What you said? Hold on. You said that he needs this. What does that mean? And how does that help me? How does that help him? How long does this has to last? You have to ask these questions because you're there for them.
And they don't have the tools to do it for themselves. And so if they can't do it, who's gonna do it? It has to be you. It has to be you.
Exactly.
So for parents that might be listening into this and might suspect that their child might need some additional support or they're just kind of starting this journey, what are some of those first steps that they can take to kind of help set themselves up for what's to come?
If they're seeing the behaviors and they're not sure what to do, I would say watching the behaviors. I would say there's nothing wrong with you. You did not do anything wrong. Find what help is out there. Find what evaluation is, right? Some people don't know. Some people know maybe early head start, but then they're like, oh, it's just for the younger kids. No, there's in different steps, right? Different ages. Then it's CPSC. That's for 3 to 5, right? Then after 5, that's IEP, right? You can always ask. And if your child is in school, speak to the teachers. Because we all parents here, we know sometimes our children act a little different when they're in school. It's a different story. So ask them, what are you seeing? Okay, I'm seeing this, you seeing this. Gather up all the information as much as you can and then get the evaluation.
Mm.
The worst thing that they can tell you is no.
And if you don't ask, it's already no.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So just act, but get the evaluation.
I have a follow-up question here. So at Launch Family, we've created a parenting guide called Emmy, which is a trusted resource for navigating modern family life. So before we wrap up, there's a couple questions that have been actually written in by parents. And so I want to get your take on this. And one is like the exact extension of what you just talked about,
Okay.
um, which is I'm worried about asking for evaluations because I don't want my child to be labeled. What should I do? So any, advice for parents that are navigating through this fear?
I would say I understand your concerns, but getting an evaluation doesn't mean your child is labeled. It's just simply about understanding their needs better so they can receive the appropriate support. Labels doesn't define the child, right? They just help guide to the right services. If that label is going to help to the right services to help them, that is fine because you don't want small wind to become a huge tornado when they start getting older and it's something we can't manage now. So I know it's scary because I've personally dealt with that type of emotions. Personally, as a woman of color, I feel like there's already so much stacks against us. So when I'm like, "Oh, now I have to get a label, now they're going to be labeled." But then I had to stand 10 toes down and say, you know what? It's going to be worse if becomes an adult and he doesn't not know how to articulate and express his needs and his emotions. So I need to get the label, right? I need to know what it is because whatever the service is going to help him become the man I need him to be. So it can be scary. And I'm telling you personally, I walked it, I felt it. But if this is about your child, you want to get the services to help with whatever behaviors they're doing or not doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, on that point, it's like kind of like an opportunity cost, right? Like if you don't get the label, you can't necessarily qualify for the services that are needed.
Right.
So again, of like, your child can't do it on their own. And so you kind of have to go through that process if you're going to be able to access some of those services that are behind that, diagnosis or that label, so to speak. So
Right. But I also think sometimes when people think of IEPs, or they say, oh, special needs, and they automatically say autism.
mm,
And that's not the story, right? Even I'm a quick story. So my son was evaluated when he was younger. He was evaluated, and one of the therapists wrote this autistic child, and I'm like, oh, this is new. You need to retract and take that out of the evaluation. And she's like, I'm sorry. I said he's not autistic. Not to say if my son was or was not, but he was not diagnosed from a doctor that he's not autistic. So you as the therapist and not even the psychologist, you are the therapist that no, you cannot. You have to take that out because that's mislabeling him. And I need him to get the services because people just think, autism or this and it wasn't that. And you know what happened? My son is just had a delayed in speech, right?
mm,
Yes, he had other behaviors, but that's his main issue. So yes, so sometimes you get scared of these labels, but you have to reassure that there's other stuff. It could be developmental delay, right? It could be a learning disability. It could be dyslexia. It could be so many other things. But sometimes, our society we zoom into the wrong things and make it sound bad and it's really not.
I love that point in perspective too. And I think that comes back to like your voice framework where it's like you're observing the behavior. You know what's happening most frequently. You know what would be like the biggest area to zoom in on, whereas others may only see them for 15 minutes to 30 minutes for a session, like once a week, maybe at best, right? Like their understanding is just limited too. And so
Yes.
I love that you bring that back in. And then one more question from the parent community is where can I find support if I don't have family or friends who understand?
Okay. So your friends don't have to understand, right? The support
Mm,
is to support you emotionally. But if you want the people that understands special education, check online. Check on Dr. Google, right? They'll tell you what communities that's out there, what online support groups they have. Then you can look into coaching or you can look into they have in the schools, they have the parent coordinators to help you with all these things. So there's other resources out there.
amazing. I love that too. And we are in a more accessible world than probably ever before now. And
Yes.
so going to the internet to find those communities and those safe people to kind of navigate through this with is a great resource too. And maybe you may be geographically limited based on where you're physically located. Okenya, I want to thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey, passion, and wisdom with us today. Your journey is a powerful reminder that no one knows a child better than their parents, and that trusting your gut, asking questions, and finding our voice matters more than ever.
Thank you.
For our listeners, if you've loved today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and stay tuned for updates from Launch Family. We'll be sure to link Okenya's coaching work and resources in the show notes so you can continue learning and advocating with confidence. Until next time, remember, you are the expert on your child, and your voice is your child's superpower. We're here cheering you on every step of the way.